So, good afternoon to you all today. It is good to have a lot of the early people that have just come into the call. So, really looking forward to this session. And guess what? The lady that says this session is being recorded has already spoken. She has not given us an opportunity to jump in while I'm already doing the intros for today. So, really excited that I think Zoom have done a little tweak. And the moment you hit start button, she chimes away and takes the session away. So good afternoon to you all. Good to have a lot of you streaming in today. I'm really excited to have a lot of you come in. So as you come in, those that have had these sessions with me before know we like to do a couple of things. Let us know what city you're dialing us in from onto this call. Say hello in the chat. This will give you an opportunity to have a good feel around of how this Zoom technology works. So in the chat, tell us what city you are, just say hello, and even tell us what the name of your company in the chat. As we get ourselves ready, we'll probably kick off around about 6, 7 past as we wait for a few more people to come into the call. But as I said, say hello in the chat by sharing your city and perhaps even your company. And as you do that, I would encourage you to select everyone or all panelists and attendees, depending which option you see, so that we can all interact with you this afternoon for this session. So thank you all for joining us. As I said earlier, we'll wait a few more minutes to get the show on the road, and then we'll get our webinar up in earnest around about 7 past or so. So today is the MTN case study. It's the risk and remediation. Build a risk intelligent culture in your organization. That's the title of the webinar. If that's what you were expecting to find, then you're definitely at the right place. If you've stumbled across so many Zoom meetings and you ended up at this one, perhaps you could stick around. You might learn a thing or two. I've got 4 absolute top gentlemen that will take us through what they have done for their businesses and their organizations to take us as far as risk and remediation is concerned. So good afternoon. My name is Brian. I'm the community manager at CFO South Africa. And once again, it gives me great pleasure to have you all on this webinar brought to you in partnership with Oracle. So today we'll talk about building a risk intelligent culture. I'll say that a few times in your organizations. And we'll specifically review the MTN case study and what they have done. Really some really cool stuff and exciting stuff that you will hear from the team today. As companies around the world emerge from challenges over the past 18 months, their risk and security, as well as compliance concerns, continue to evolve. I'm sure you all know that. So cybersecurity is a big concern and has become even a greater threat, and transitioning to remote workforces has added a lot of complexity, as you might know. I mean, for example, I'm working from home, and I gather quite a few of you on this call are also working from home. So compromised financial data is no joke. It's an absolute real consideration. Your corporate brand could be at risk, reputation, etc. So do you know what the risks are? Do you know how to mitigate them? That is the question. I will ask some of those questions again a bit later. And if you have any questions, this is how the session will run. Please feel free at any time to post your questions in the chat. Post them in the chat. I'll try and pull them up and then ask you the questions as we go. So if anything is pressing, post it straight away in the chat. The colleagues that I have with me will try and address some of those questions. So good afternoon to Andrew. Good afternoon to Potego. He's from the MTN group. So I suppose you're here to cheer on some of your colleagues that are on this call. And Andrew is the company's in the Northwest Tourism Board. I hope that's going quite okay. Michael from SABC, thank you. Thank you for joining us and on this call. I've got my colleague as well. I've got people that work with me. I've got Karen on the call. She will be helping out, pulling out any questions that I might miss and nudging me on the side as we get this show on the road shortly. So great to see all of you. It's not every day that we have, an opportunity to sit with this caliber of panelists that I have today. So please don't be shy, as I said, to pop your questions, and I encourage you to to chat and interact as we go along. So today, I am joined by Johan Oosthuizen. He's a senior manager at for risk at MTN. And Johan will also have his good colleague, Dumile Nzeku, who's also a senior specialist in risk and compliance, also at MTN. And they will talk about the company's cloud journey with Oracle. To support them, I also have Aman D'Souza. He's a director of risk and cloud strategy at Oracle. He will discuss how cloud products can respond to the requirement and risk that may be, that needs to be managed at speed and potentially at scale. But I'll also be joined by a risk advisor and a partner from Technology Risk Partners. His name is Arun Mujamdar. He's here on this call. He'll outline why it's critical to take an integrated view and start early in the risk and audit management project. So that's the team. That's the team that I have for you today. We've probably got a couple more minutes before we kick off. And did you know that MTN initiated its global transformation project in 2011, right? The risk management component delivered by Oracle Cloud initially focused on segregation of duties and ultimately made it possible for monthly risk reporting. Bet you didn't know. With a remediation forecast, MTN has also embarked on transactional analysis module that allows identification of potential fraudulent transactions, remediation and delivery of supporting documentation. So that's been the background of MTN. They have been on this journey for a while. So you will be hearing from people that were involved in this risk and remediation process. So I'm really, really excited to have everybody here as a go. So that said, I want us to perhaps do a quick intro. And I've mentioned a few of the people that are here on the call already, but I wanted to start off maybe with the intros with Aman. Aman, as I said, is he's a director at for Risk Cloud Strategy at Oracle. So Aman will start off with a quick introduction. He'll tell us a little bit about him, and then I'll go to Johan, then Dumile, and then we'll close off the intros with Arun. So Aman, when you're ready, why are we here? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Brian. Pleasure to be over here. Pleasure to participate in this webinar. Thank you for having us. And so in my role as a senior director at Oracle, I interact with customers all year long around the world about their risk and audit journeys alongside their ERP transformations. So I'm happy to share what I learn in those conversations as they deal with very unique challenges. Every organization I find has a unique perspective on risks that are that affect their objectives and their industry and their context. So risk is very individual. It's very very specific, organizational specific. And over the last 5-10 years, there's been tremendous progress and change in that space. It used to be, a space called governance, risk, and compliance, GRC, okay? And that continued for a while, and then it transitioned to what you call integrated risk management, where risk and the management of risk is integrated into the processes of each organization, okay? And yet, even though it was called integrated risk management, very often it was done in a separate tool, okay? Over to the side, so kind of integrated, not entirely. And lately, what we've started doing is completely embedding it in your most critical applications, your ERP, your HCM, and that sort of progressed it further. But the background to this, if you give me a minute, let me just show some slides here. I think that'll inform. Okay, so our webinar, and obviously whenever there's an Oracle speaker, we show a safe harbor statement because we talk about software as a service, and we're always adding functionality. So this is just to say that what we speak about today, or at least what I speak about, is already in the product. Okay, and This is really the reason why this space exists. It's because year after year, organizations find that they're still impacted by fraud, up to 5% of revenue, as you see by the first statistic, which is a huge number, because if you stop any part of that, it goes straight to the bottom line, okay? And so these two numbers are all about fraud, and it's not just fraud, it's also data, which in today's digital world is tremendously valuable. If you think about it, the organizations with the largest market cap in the world are all data, right? They are data-based organizations. So now data breaches are happening every week, if not every day. You see something in the news. It's not something that IT alone can handle. It's something that the entire organization has to rally around, and it's a key risk that CFOs care about, okay? And finally, compliance. There are compliance mandates around the world, and catering to them can be expensive, right? Regulatory compliance, whether you have Sarbanes-Oxley in the US or similar compliance requirements around the world. Now, the backdrop to this is that now everyone knows digital transformations are valuable. There's no question about that. What the question is really about is how do you get and extract full value from that digital transformation? And the best way to do that is to recognize that with every digital transformation, you have opportunities to use new technology, whether it's data, blockchain, ERP, in the cloud, robotics, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. And yet, along with those opportunities, there are threats, whether it is threats of data leakage, incorrect information, security, privacy breaches. The speed of digital transformation makes it very difficult to keep up and monitor and audit your systems and your processes along the way, okay? And so that brings me to the evolution of the space. It used to be that we audited things retrospectively, right? Exception-based reporting, data analytics. Now more and more, there's continuous automation of and continuous monitoring of your systems and your processes, and we are moving into predictive, right? Dynamic risk and control, continuous automation, continuous controls monitoring, right? So, and this technology really helps organizations move forward quickly, so that in the background, really what they're trying to do is manage risk to create value. That's really the mantra, where you neither too exposed, right, where you've got insufficient controls mitigating those risks, nor are you overly controlled, where you're stifling value creation in your processes, right? You really want to manage risk to add value. That's sweet spot. And the best way to get that is with a variety of controls, okay? So what we advocate now is, and this is based on learnings from, variety of customer interactions as well as interactions with our partners, is best practices for creating a risk intelligent culture. It's a combination of streamlining your workflows, automating and integrating your risk management in your key applications, and then extending it to your people and even your external auditors. So that's basically a lot of, as you can see, a lot of evolution in the space. Over to you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for that. Man. Really sound. I wanted to just get back to the group quickly. So I'm going to go to Johan and then Dumile. Just a quick intro. Tell us your name and tell us what you do, and then Dumile will come in, and then I'll go to Arun to do the same. And then I've got something lined up for the audience. So Johan, quick intro, and then Dumile.
Hi there, my name is Johan Westhuizen. I'm in charge of, well, I'm Senior Manager Risk and Compliance for MTN. I'm responsible for looking after the Advanced Access Controls module and the Advanced Financial Controls. There you go, Dumile.
Thanks, Johan. My name is Dumile Nzeku. I'm a Senior Specialist, Risk and Compliance. I work with Johan where we look after the ASC and the AFC module. Thank you.
Arun, over to you.
So thank you. Name is Arun Majumdar. I've been working in professional services, looks like forever. Recently been working as a Oracle Risk Management Cloud specialist, and very proud to work with MTN, Oracle Consulting on helping them in the risk management journey. I come with around close to plus minus 300 clients experience, both audit advisory, consulting, GRC implementation, and being part of some of the world's most complex and successful implementations as well. Back to you, Brian.
All right, awesome. So there's a quick intros. You are in no doubt about the right company. I mean, you heard that from Arun. We're talking 300 plus, right? So we are definitely in good company. But before we get into the meat of this conversation, I wanted to, you know the audience. Now I want to get a sense of the audience. I want to hear from you. So to do that, I'm going to launch a poll quickly. I'm going to ask a couple of questions just to get you all in the mix, so I can get to know the type of people that we have in the session today. We're close to about 70 odd of us here. So a poll question should appear on your screen. It's very simple. Where are you? Where is your organization in your ERP transformation journey? Right? Where do you think you are? If you know, it's okay. I see at least 2 of us already saying, I have no cooking clue where we are. So there's a couple of options. Not on the radar, considering it, started deploying, we are live and good to go. And like I said, there's an option for no idea where we are. Everybody's welcome. So let's see if we can push it to perhaps a 70% response rate. Get a sense of what type of people, what type of businesses you are in, where you are in your organization. So please take part. The quicker we take part, the quicker we move on to the meat of this session today. So where is your organization in your ERP transformation journey? It's not on the radar. It's not something we're even looking at. Or we are considering it. Perhaps you've already started deploying. Perhaps you've just finished. You are effectively live, or you have no idea where you are. More than half of us have responded. Shall I wait for a 60% completion? That would be good. Thank you for all those that are participating in this. It really helps the panelists specifically to respond to some of your questions based on some of the responses that you provide here, right? So as you can see, we've got a varied response here that I'll probably want to, as I get ready to close off this poll, I'm going to pick an outlier, which I'm finding quite interesting here. And I'm going to pass it to Aman quickly. Aman, we're looking at about at least 14% of the audience here saying they have no idea. Can you comment on that? Is that something that you found, along as you do your work?
That does happen. That does happen because historically, very often, as I said, risk may be managed by a very small team in the organization, and it's offline, either in a spreadsheet or in a separate tool, or even if it's integrated into the processes, it's still in a separate tool. So, and because of that, there are a lot of people in the organization who may not be aware. And there are some organizations that are actually genuinely not managing risk at the moment. Nothing wrong with that. There's a variety of organizations out there at different levels in their maturity. It's really all about finding where you are on that maturity curve and taking a few steps to improve it. Yeah,
absolutely. It is about that, right? Find where you are, perhaps, ask the business, what are we doing about risk? And I'm going to go to Arun quickly, because something that I found interesting on this as we comment here, Arun, is that there's 20% of us here that it's not even on the radar. I mean, you've worked with over 300 businesses here. What's the risk here?
I think that's also not very surprising. I think organization has a long-term strategy on where they were right now and where they want to be. But I believe the circumstances over the last 1.5 years changed that culture a lot. And we'll see more culture evolving where this was never been discussed in the boardroom as the priority. those would be surfacing very quickly. And I think as a risk practitioner, we have seen a huge demand in terms of clients asking for more open conversation about how they're managing risk. And one of the key elements in that journey is automation and using emerging technologies there. So we'll definitely see a lot of no idea and not in radar at all. We'll slowly move into considering it actively or in that journey already. So not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to be active in some of these processes. The risk, as Aman already showed us, is quite immense, and the cost as well. I'm going to go on to the second question, launch it for you quickly. Let's get a sense of, and this is probably to those that, are either on the journey, have started it, and probably not so much the guys that are not too sure where they are. So how are you currently managing risk in your finance and your procurement processes, right? And I'm talking ERP and SCM here. How are you currently doing it? Be curious to know what you're currently doing at the moment is a bit in your businesses. You got a couple of options. Again, we have technology-enabled process, which is always great. As you know, we're finance people. Spreadsheets are never far. They're never far. Managing using spreadsheets and mail, it's also a possibility. And verbally execute in meetings. We talk about it and say, hey, Mr. Risk Manager, go manage it in the meeting. Your fourth option, we don't have a formal or established process. We kind of attack risk as it comes, basically is what you say. And it's okay not to be sure. It is okay not to be sure. This is why we have these type of sessions. So those are your options. How are you currently managing risk in your finance and perhaps your procurement processes? How's that happening? I see the bulk of us are, we've got some kind of technology-enabled process. And again, hoping we can hit the 70% completion here. If you can, it'll be great. While we're on that, I'm going to pull an interesting one here. Again, I'm going to go over to you, Aman. Spreadsheets. We are finance people, right? Close to 40% of us are manually using spreadsheets and mail. What do you have to say, Aman?
I actually think that's a bit unusual historically, until as recently as a couple of years ago. That number used to be closer to 80–90%. And it's not surprising at all, because very often risk is managed by a very small team in the organization that either reports to the CFO or CEO or the board. And because they're a small team, very often the investment is not made. And so they find it, sufficient to manage on spreadsheets. What I would challenge them is to look at technologies, and as much as possible, look at technologies that are actually fully integrated with their most critical applications.
Yeah, and I think to do that, they must either come see you or Arun, right? I think that's that's what we're hoping happens. Arun, I'm going to go to you again, and for the next bit. So there is a lot of, we have technology-enabled processes, right? So there is a spectrum of options that people can go to. Is that surprising?
I think that question or that option possibly then segregated between various granular options, saying, as Aman keep mentioning about integration or approach, there are various solutions in the market. Everyone claims to be delivering integrated risk management, but I think now clients should start looking into, are they really integrated risk management, or it is just another cheaper solution to buy, expensive to integrate, and the overall cost of compliance become very expensive. So I think in that very spectrum of technology enabled processes, you're looking for actually a true integrated solution and as much as automation possible. And that's what I think Oracle is investing a lot into that. And a lot of customers who are subscribing to that is piggybacking that investment, there's billions and billions of dollars to kind of really take the best practice out of those solutions. So yes, I think that's also very interesting to see.
All right, awesome. Thank you. We're getting closer. We're closer. I know a lot of you want to hear the MTN case and see how they've got on a journey, but I'm going to hang a bit with Aman here for the next bit. And, you probably touched on this, but perhaps you can kind of, just double click on it. Tell us about the evolution of this specific kind of domain, the contribution it has made to technology. I just want us to just peel the onion a little bit more there, if you can, Aman.
Certainly. certainly. And I probably jumped the gun there a few minutes ago. I apologize for that. But yeah, let me come back to the best practices that we advocate, right? So there's been, as you see, a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of progress in the space, right? Digital transformations, driving growth, and you got to manage threats and risks. Technology, moving from spreadsheets, offline, manual processes to continuous controls monitoring to even predictive. And now we talk about, so, how do we actually take advantage of that? And I read the slide bottom up, right? You start by streamlining and integrating your audit and compliance processes, right? And you can do that in a variety of places. You can even do that before you start on your ERP journey. And a lot of our focus today in our conversation is going to be on the next 3 steps, where you use a native integrated risk management solution, right? That's embedded in your ERP. It really streamlines and allows you to engage your organization in managing user access, who gets in, monitoring what people do in those systems, in those most critical applications, and preventing a variety of unusual activity that you don't want, right? Whether it's segregation of duties, enforcing that, monitoring your processes, and then even ultimately extending external auditors access so that that whole process of external audit, the request for information and all that becomes streamlined and efficient, right? A lot of our focus will be around the middle 3 over here. And that's really what, our integrated applications with Oracle help you do. They protect your data, secure your financials, monitor your processes continuously, and help you evolve with your organization, new risks, new businesses, new compliance requirements. And the foundation all starts with controlling user access. Who gets in? Do you have segregation of duties? Ideally, you want to do that during implementation. So for those out there who are actually in the process of deploying, it's a great time to start doing that. For those who've already deployed and are live, the next best time to look at it is today. You might have some remediation to do, but the more you automate your controls, whether it's monitoring of user access or monitoring of activity, the easier and easier it becomes to manage risk and manage it in a streamlined way that really makes things efficient. So those 3 layers, as you see, we break down into about 8 different use cases, each of them rich in value, so that you don't have to take them all at one time, because that can be a lot. What we advocate is taking a risk-based approach, taking 1 or 2 use cases at a time and gradually evolving. And which use cases you might start in will vary. Every organization, as I said, has unique risks. So what we'll hear from MTN very soon is going to be very, tailored to their situation and high value for them. But every organization is unique and they may start in different places. Maybe I'll hand back to you, Brian or Arun, to comment on this.
Absolutely. Thanks, Arun. You wanted to jump in? Perhaps you got an addition on what your experience has been.
No, I think that's as Aman mentioned, that I think every organization they're in various stages of transformation, and I think each of the use cases could come very independently. And at various stages. So I've seen customers on-prem is going for compliance automation. Everything is compliance is on the cloud. I've seen cloud customers then gone live and started monitoring some of the transaction, client being audited and trying to address the audit point by implementing more automating processes around risk management. So it's a varied spectrum, and there is no one shoe fits all kind of a thing. It's like very unique, both the solutions and the journeys as well.
Yeah, awesome. Arun, I'm going to stay with you quickly. You started to touch on something quite interesting. What should clients be considering now? I mean, what is, what should they look at to on this effective risk management journey you're alluding to?
I think to address that, Brian, there are, I think, possibly three top items client should started looking into. One is a clarity on what they want to achieve. It's just making sure that they understand where they are right now, doing an as-is analysis, and then trying to understand what their risk appetite is, and then where they want to go. And then the last thing is basically identifying the various stakeholders into that process as well. Often from an auditing perspective, from an advisory perspective, we've seen internal audit, risk management, compliance, SOX department kept in silo, the transformation gone ahead full steam on its own, and later got a lot of questions being asked at the steering committees and audit reports coming in. And leaders who were driving the digital transformation really struggled and stressed out to answer those questions. The best thing is to get them engaged early, take them on board in the journey, because they are the organization part and they can sometimes help to lead the way to understand what organization wants to do in that space. And with the right selection of technology, right selection of prioritization, I think that could be, I think, the three of the item what I can recommend. But the challenge is to do it in a fast-paced digital transformation time is very, very difficult, because a lot of customers, they're possibly seeing the cloud solution for the first time. There are system integrators who are asking millions and millions of approvals and questions every day, design decisions to be made. I think this possibly needs to be discussed a little bit of project steer core level, and then drop down to understand how, fine, we are delivering a digital transformation, but how we are embedding the risk and controls at the part of the processes. So these are the sort of areas customers should look into, I would recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those insights, and to the audience. If you have any questions, any points, something you don't get a point, or you've got something that you need a point of clarity, do not hesitate, throw it in the chat. I'll get the gentleman here on the call with me to respond. Aman, I'm coming back to you quickly, and I wanted to talk about material risk and mitigating those. I mean, why deep analysis of key financials? Why do we have to do this?
Yeah, so Brian, I'd like to, as I answer that question, I'd like to react to something that Arun said. It is really crucial to look at this alongside your ERP journey, because I think a lot of customers don't realize that their ERP implementation partners are primarily in the business of granting access, granting users access so that they can do what that organization wants those people to do in the systems, right? And as they go about that, very often the question of what those people should not do does not arise, right? Because the implementation partner's focus is on making functionality available, right? And that's why at that time, it's very crucial to have a balance, someone who's handling risk assurance, someone like Arun, who's actually and his firm, Technology Risk Partners, who actually focused on making sure that people don't have too much access, right? And that's where the technology really does help balance out and offer a variety of things so that customers can balance access with configuration monitoring and transaction monitoring. Now, this slide has a lot of things going on, so I'm not going to belabor it. The good thing about this slide is that customers don't actually have to worry about it, because it all happens behind the scenes, okay? What the tool does is ingest data from your core applications, process it in an AI engine, provide best practice models that you can actually use to analyze your data with a graphical workbench and statistical techniques. And all of that brings out dashboards, incident management, makes it available to a variety of people in your organization, whether it's first line process owners, second line compliance, risk management professionals in your organization, and then finally IT and auditors as well, okay? So there's really a variety of things that it can do. Actually, I'll hand back maybe to Arun over here so he can comment on how he makes that come alive for his customers.
Yeah, sure. I think I have to be a bit quicker as well. So I think I'm going to touch, and I think the message for this slide is that there is no one silver bullet. There is no one control or a specific catalog which you implement overnight and you have solved your risk management problem. It's about kind of various control working together and trying to secure an end-to-end process. That's a combination of access control, looking into transaction monitoring, and I think maybe Aman, if you can go on to the next slide as well. Looking into some of the native ERP control as well. So you have bought a fantastic Oracle ERP Cloud and HCM Cloud box that also give you a variety of options and configuration, which then set up to a right value can help you to mitigate a risk. And the advanced control, what it does is it just complements that package. And then it started providing you that end-to-end assurance, which typically both business and external regulators are looking for from a business. So it really goes hand in hand. It just complements that processes. And as Aman mentioned, that you do not have to worry about the backend engine. It's completely integrated. The AI is running. It's checking sometimes millions and billions of combination without us understanding just of a click of a button. So we should be using the power of that scalability and automation behind the scene, and really select a lot of best practices scenarios being provided by Oracle, like Benford analysis, Pareto analysis, various other statistical analysis, which we have started using. And I think sometimes we are kind of wondering and then really getting a wow working with the customer, implementing those scenarios for customer and really creating a lot of unique success stories as well. Someone you want to mention anything on this slide?
No, I think you use it very effectively, and you guys have put together, whether it's a variety of clients now. So
I think there's a couple of more slides I'm going to jump quickly through before I'll give it to Brian. So I think I'm going to borrow a quotation from Aman. Aman said into another webinar that if the best time to implement risk management was yesterday, the second best time to consider it right now. And here you see that the customer who are in the journey at a stage one, the early subscribing, they're in the middle of transformation, UAT and pre-go live scenario happening, or even after go live, there is no restriction for client to start that risk management journey and work with your Oracle sales rep and Oracle counterpart system integrator and ask them question that if they do not have risk cloud, how they are providing the assurance, what roles they're building, what configurations they're building, how auditing would be enabled, how reporting would be done. And I think those difficult questions, if you do not ask now, you will get asked soon into a board meeting or an audit committee report. So ask that question to see that risk cloud could be a value for your organization. And I think it can be delivered at any point of your transformation journey.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I'll come back to you guys. Just hang tight, because I'm concerned that Johan might be getting a little bit cold. So I'll come back to you. I still have questions for both you, Arun, and Aman. So hang tight. I just want to check if Johan is still there, because we're eager to kind of get onto your journey quickly and find out how it's been going on. So Johan, firstly, tell us about the MTN journey to the cloud, and then we can proceed.
Thank you, Brian. Eventually, we get past Aman and Arun, and I get a chance. So here we go. I am really convinced that MTN are using the Oracle risk modules in a very unique way. And we would like to share our journey and experiences with you. When we get to the end of today's session, you will gain some insights from our learnings on how to implement Oracle risk in your own organization. Just as a bit of background, MTN started on an ERP standardization project in 2012. At this point, it involved on-premise solution where the scope was human resources, supply chain, finance projects, and fixed assets. The solution went live in September 2014, and at first it was just the one country, and in the following year we did 2 more. While planning for further rollouts, we embarked on Oracle Cloud journey and went live with that first country on HCM in late 2019. Since then, we have 11 countries live on HCM, of which 4 countries are using the entire Oracle suite. We have, just one second, we have some quick starts and sprints running that include financial reporting, EPM modules, as well as GSC. From a risk perspective, during the on-prem phase, we performed SOD analysis Now with cloud, we are embarking on the same steps again, and happy we can report that it's much easier. Today, I'll be telling you more about our walk with the risk modules, advanced access controls, and financial controls. Segregation of duties is very big on the agenda for MTN, so naturally, this was our initial focus. Emily will be sharing a bit more on that later. Arun has been very much helping us in our journey with AFC. Back to you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for that, Johan. I think my camera is acting up a bit, going on and off, but I am here loud and clear. I can hear you. Thank you for that brief intro. I'm going to stick with you again. Johan, why did you consider implementing Risk Cloud? I mean, why did you even get to this position?
MTN has always had a big focus on segregation of duties. And this tool facilitates that for us, especially the fact, and I think Aman has mentioned it as well, that it is embedded in the product. Therefore, there's no integrations with external systems. It's all in one. Fast track rollouts for HCM, which we did in our projects, enabled the users to get onto the system quite easily. And by getting them onto the system easily, they became quite familiar with how the system worked, well before the other modules came into play. What is great about Risk Cloud is that it's on the same platform, as already mentioned, so you can use a single app to easily manage the entire thing. Role design allowed for customization of roles. The Oracle roles as such were transferred into what we would consider our MTN roles. These were used for both manual provisioning as well as auto provisioning. The auto provisioning enables us to define a set of roles per position. Thus, as people are onboarded and transferred between positions, their roles are assigned and removed seamlessly. The second element is data access. What this allows you is access to certain opcos or to different areas within the company. This is also managed centrally. What is nice about that is that because you have one role with many elements of data access associated with it, when the quarterly releases or updates come, you only have to make the change once. And this has been a very good approach for us. The out-of-the-box models are ready to go, so we really like that. More so for AFC than AAC. But with our focus on SODs, AAC was our primary focus. Remediation is quite straightforward in the product. It's basically 4 steps, quite easy to learn and to train. It only requires some audit functionality to be activated at some times. I think that's it, Brian.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. It sounds like a lot of it, decisions were made and you guys are well pleased with what's going on. Yeah, I'm going to get to some value-based questions in a short while for you, Johan, but just give me a second. I want to go to Aman. Just one question has been kind of bugging me as we're going through this, Aman. Aman and Arun, you helped kind of MTN go through this journey, right? But I suppose the key question is, do you always need a mitigation partner? And I'll come back to MTN, but I wanted to go back to you guys quickly. Do you always need one to help you hold your hand throughout this? Aman?
I think it helps a lot because an implementation partner such as, so what Arun does, he's seen a lot of different deployments, a lot of different contexts, and he can bring that to bear for a organization very quickly. Whereas typically, each organization may go through it only once. So it's really complementary. In my opinion, Johan and Dumila, they're rock stars. It's rare that you find an organization, and that it really makes this case study very unique. MTN is very far up the maturity curve in terms of how sophisticated their risk management is. Not every organization is going to be like that. The key is really wherever you are on that journey to find your spot and then move forward from there. And no matter where you are, the technology can help you. The scale at which Johan and Dumil operate is astounding. It's not one that most organizations will have to deal with. So it is unique. Arun?
I think as Aman, you mentioned that possibly not always a specialist partner is needed, but usually because I think most people appreciate when the system integrator typically works, they know the technology very, very well. But usually the deployment had been always a very technical deployment, but a project like risk management needs a little bit of advisory handholding, because both customer and sometimes the system integrator probably seeing the product for the first time, and it's very very easy to implement the product, but the difficult is to create that downstream governance processes which is going to make that product successful. I have worked from professional services where we delivered 2-3 year GRC programs. I think those days are gone. The product has become a long way to deliver a very quick out of the box value, but you're still looking for that advisory element. So I believe that usually needed, but I think then you're looking for the maturity of that customer, as Aman mentioned, and also the openness of the system integrator, that they acknowledge, yes, this is something we just cannot deploy very technically. It will work for the go live checklist, but fail after. And believe me, I have done far enough failed project and re-implementation of GRC and telling it that just implementing technically will help you to certify the go live certificate, but it will not go long.
Yeah, I really love the honesty there. From you, Arun, hearing it from implementation partner. I think I'm a big advocate of going with a partner, because often, as businesses, we would, like to drink our own Kool-Aid. So I think you always need somebody who's there to put the brakes. So I'm going to go back to MTN again. You guys are the stars of the show. Let's talk about value. What value did MTN get, Johan, from implementing risk intelligent culture? And I want to hear it from an AFC perspective, perhaps.
Absolutely. Well, there are about 50 standard out-of-the-box models available. Of these, some can be operationalized quite quickly, in that the logic behind the model is very straightforward. Something like purchase order date after invoice date, if this is something that the organization is concerned about. We currently have one country actively using all the modules, and another 4 lined up for deployment. Yeah, and that will happen pretty soon. Additionally, models go beyond finance, which is actually quite nice, and includes models related to HCM and supply chain, as well as changes to roles, which is something that I'm specifically interested in. AFC allows us to start preempting what the assurance services may require. Thus, we have already reached out to our auditors in one country to tell us what they would be interested in beyond the controls that are available out of the box, thus being ahead of the game, so to speak. On sharing the functionality with an MTN executive, she was quick to include certain criteria, which was specifically, where are these bank accounts being used in the system? Are they being used by more than one person, more than one supplier, maybe by an employee and by a supplier? And these are the kind of things that they are interested in. Not available out of the box, but something that we can definitely look at in the future. As already mentioned, remediation is intuitive, very easy to use. You can learn it quite quickly, the 4-status approach, which makes it very simple for us. Aman, Lakshmi, and the Oracle risk team have been very approachable in terms of helping us when we have some challenges coming our way, and discussions continue with them around certain remediations and certain requirements, such as comments and attachments being mandatory. I do believe one's approach to ASC should not be only to identify fraud, though it's not saying that that's naturally why it's there.
Really like.
But to give you a level of comfort around what's happening in the system.
Johan, I'm getting a nudge here, and some, so the non-technical people, they're like, "What is AFC?"
Oh, sorry about that. So AFC is Advanced Financial Control, and Advanced Financial Controls manages the transactions coming out of the system. In other words, if a transaction looks fraudulent, it will put it onto the AFC module, on the AFC models or controls, and from there they can be remediated. A very good example, we have a few examples actually, but you have multiple changes to supplier bank accounts would be one example. We have invoices that are created before the purchase order is signed, something that one of our opcos is very interested in. So putting AFC is looking at the transactions that have already occurred within the system, managing those potential duplicates, saying that they are okay, or if not, stopping the process and seeing if you can't avoid fraud happening at all. Does that answer your question, Brian?
That is absolutely awesome. And I'm gonna stick with you guys again, but I'm gonna go to Dumile, right? And probably sticking with the acronyms again. AAC, what value did MTN get in implementing a risk culture from the work that you do, Dumile? We want to rev you up. You've been quiet so long.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and to you, Johan, for laying the foundation, and good day to everyone. Before I touch on some values and benefits we got from implementing a risk intelligence culture through AAC, let me briefly take you through the advanced access controls, which is AAC, and some of the work that we do. Okay, AAC is a sub-module within the risk cloud module where segregation of duties, SODs, are performed. SODs are based on models, for example, create payments and create suppliers is a model, and it contains rule sets. There are over 140 standard Oracle models that were selected, and 16 more were recommended by consultants. And then process leads then rated all the models according to severity ratings from high, medium, then low, and not applicable. What then happened is that we embarked on a cleanup exercise for all the SOD models, the intra-role violations, and the false positives. Just to explain what intra-role violation is. Those violations that exist within a single role, and inter are violation between a combination of two roles. And false positives are violations that appear to be true violations when they are not, after analysis. The criteria for a cleanup was to either create exclusions, amend rules, or amend the models. While cleaning up the models, we tested and converted 68 models into controls in production. We also amended the AAC rules. The key to converting models to controls is not to rush before models and rules are refined. We also expected the SOD results to increase as we had the tier 1 country that was to be deployed, and it has since been taken on board. How do we support business? We perform SODs monthly or on request and for new country deploys. What then occurs is that we run analysis for country and communicate the results to the relevant stakeholders and recommend remediations. All the detected violations are then remediated through revoking access and or compensating controls. Before a country goes live, we perform analysis in the lower environments to preempt production SOPs. What are some of our values and benefits and achievements we got from the AAC? This module assisted us in testing the role configs, also in remediating and reducing majority of high severity business critical SOD violations. For example, 90% of all false positives and rule amendments have been actioned. We also have a clean intra-role violation. And as a result, we managed to introduce a number of viewer rules. It also assisted us in sending out awareness on roles and segregation of duties, as it enabled business stakeholders to get more involved and to know more about the roles in place. Some of the challenges for support at times during deployment and post-go live, consultants and support staff would require access to privileged roles in the production environment, and which is managed through our internal governance processes. We also have users with access to seeded roles, which inherently carry conflicting access, as some of the customized roles may not be functioning or new roles not yet configured. I will now be handing back to Brian, and if anyone has some questions, please remember to post them on the chat. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you do have questions, post them in the chat. You heard one thing that I definitely caught from what Dumile was saying. He thoroughly loved going through this process. So I much appreciate your feedback on that. And the second thing that I actually got from him was take your time. Do not rush the process. So that's some good heads up. Johan, just quickly come back to you. any other words of encouragement to anyone who wants to get onto this journey? What would you say to them?
Yeah, if you're about to embark on the journey, I can give you a few tips of things that we found very valuable and along the journey. The AAC model refinement requires time and focus. Start this earlier. Oracle provides you with the building blocks, but you still have to adapt it to be fit for purpose for your organization. You have the variables of role design, which is very fluid in the initial stages of a project. And we have the false positives that Dumilia has alluded to. You go through a process of running the modules, evaluating the data, making changes, implementing the changes, running the model again, and this is repeated several times. It's very important to understand that once you convert to controls, people are going to be remediating these and working on them. If they start remediating information that is not relevant, or if you haven't done your homework, they will not use the product. Make sure that by the time we develop, you're showing them the product and you've got them working on it, that it's sound, that the results are true. One of the things we started was to act of the 140 models was a prioritization. And this is also very important. There are 140 odd models. You cannot work on 140. Determine which are high, medium, and low. Take that as an easy thumbs up. Then priorities may change, and priorities may change for your organization, and they won't be the same for you as they would for me. So that it's very organizational specific. And lastly, one of the things that AFC models allow you to do, which I only picked up a bit later, was that you can actually get some quick wins there. Some of these models can be converted to controls quickly, and examples are invoice before purchase date that I've mentioned before. The rules are so clear and so simple, it should be able to get you results very, very quickly, which means that you have people in the organization who are already adopting and using the risk management modules. But that's three nice ideas, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder to the audience, if you have questions, this is a good time to post them in the chat. We're getting close to the top of the hour, and you heard it from Johan. There are quick wins, so jump onto this journey if you haven't already, or in the process, if you need some guidance. Be a good opportunity for you to get some insights and from the professionals. Johan, I want to stick with you one more time. So I guess you're sleeping better at night now?
Yeah, no, I am sleeping better. I guess as risk people never really sleep that well anyway, but nevertheless, you know, I mean, we have a very SOP conscious environment, and we take a very conservative view of that, and sometimes we are way too strict, and that's also fine. So this has caused problems for organization in the past, so and that's why we have a big focus on it. Many of the countries we operate in haven't really had a central scrutiny of their SOPs, and we've introduced that. So, I mean, that's already better than it was before. We target 0 violations in each country. Our HCM systems are quite clean, and we are improving every month. It's a journey. We are getting there. We have constant discussions with our partners in country, and they provide inputs and share in how we remediate. The comfort we have is that risk is being remediated to the extent that it's almost impossible for something to go wrong. I know that sounds quite brave, but as we grow in the product, even our confidence we know will grow. What we do have is that many of the countries we're dealing with did not really enforce SODs before, so this is also new to them. And this naturally just to a better position than we were before by having a centralized product. Another point I would just like to add is role design. Our roles are built such that any role assigned will not have a conflict. And by having that, we already know that in the way we design roles and the way we assign roles, there's a lot of comfort to be gained from that. This is what is managed during role assignments to ensure that we are not introducing new conflicts into the system. The only time we do have problems is when we have conflicting roles assigned at the same time. And this is our full-time manager. We are hoping that with auto provisioning and better planning, you'll be able to get that off the table completely. Anyway, I see we're almost out of time and we still want to do some questions. Back to you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. It definitely sounds like a man who's sleeping a little bit better since getting onto Risk Cloud. Thank you for that. Quickly, I'm going to hand over to Armand quickly. Some closing remarks from an Oracle perspective. Anything you'd like to say before we close off the session?
Thank you, Brian. I think one of the things Johan and Dumile have done a fantastic job with Arun's help, of course, at MTN. I think there's probably a lot of people at MTN who sleep easier because what goes unsaid is a lot of organizations don't know what they don't know, right? The speed of digital transformations is such that you have transactions happening and so many configurations and so much different access with people virtualized, accessing your system from home, from a variety of places, moving around, that if you don't use a tool and make sure that you are monitoring it and do it with the sophistication that Johan and Dumile have done here for MTN, then you probably don't know a lot of what's going on in your environment, right? So my first message over here, just in closing, is for those who are not yet on the ERP transformation journey, you can still get started today, right, with risk management on your workflows. Once you get into your ERP journey, right, get started early with managing access and monitoring user activity, and make sure that you talk to your implementation partner and that they have not just a implementation focus, but also a risk management and control focus. If not, you can talk to Arun and company. And, once again, I think some of the things that Johan and Dumile made, their points, are crucial, right? Don't do too many controls up front. The tool is powerful. You don't want to, in essence, boil the ocean for a cup of tea, right? You want to focus, take a risk-based approach, prioritize, and the various modules complement each other. Access controls complement transaction and financial controls, and vice versa. And then you have workflow. So with that, thank you, Brian. Over back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Really insightful show. That was the MTN case study, risk and remediation. I hope your businesses can also build a risk intelligent culture and be as excited as Johan is on this journey. Thank you to Aman, Arun, and Dumile for coming on this webinar with us. Up next, don't worry, we've got more webinars coming up. It's another case study. This time we are accounting for a never normal world. So no surprises there. Another webinar on the 16th. It's coming live from Blackline. And then also on the 22nd, risk and rewards, cloud migration. We're still talking about the necessity of moving on to cloud. And are you ready with AWS? Thank you very much for joining me today. That is the end of today's session. We'll catch up with you on the road next time. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.